In this part, we talk about how to drive and maneuver in reverse, what reference points are used in these circumstances, and we examine the exercise called reversing around a corner. Many drivers have problems when driving in reverse. They're often confused and do not know which way to turn the steering wheel. In fact, everything is quite easy. If you're driving forward and want to turn left, you turn the steering wheel to the left. That is logical. If you want to go to the left while moving in reverse, you should turn the steering wheel to the left also, and the car obediently goes to the left. There's no difference whether you're going forward or backward. You need to turn the steering wheel in the direction you want to go. An example. You have stopped too far from the curb, but you want to park closer to it. You want your car to move more to the right side, so you turn the steering wheel to the right. Now you need to drive a short distance to move the car closer to the curb. And then, in order to align the car, we have to turn the steering wheel in the opposite direction, to the left. When the vehicle is located parallel to the curb, we have to turn the steering wheel in the straight position. This is the trajectory of our car. First we had shifted to the right, and then we have aligned the car. The example we have just discussed is, in a sense, similar to parallel parking. The idea is to move the car closer to the curb. When you turn the steering wheel, you direct only the front wheels on the front axle. When the car goes forward, this axle is at the front, and the car behaves in the usual way. But when you're moving backwards, this axle becomes the back one. For this reason, when you go backwards, the car responds to the turn of the steering wheel in a different way. See how the car behaves when we make a turn while moving backwards in reverse gear. The driver has turned the steering wheel to the right. Accordingly, the car turns right. But at the same time, its front part moves in the opposite direction, to the left. This happens because the turning wheels in this case are in the back. Pay attention to the trajectory of the car. The dashed lines show the corridor which the car takes when going straight forward. We turned to where we wanted, to the right, but the front part of the car went in the opposite direction. This point should always be considered when maneuvering in reverse gear. Whenever making a turn, you should leave at least 3 to 4 feet of free space for the front part of the car. Now the driver has turned the steering wheel to the left. The back end of the car turns to the left also, but its front end is shifting to the right. Let's sum this up. While driving in reverse, the steering wheel should be turned precisely in the direction you want to go. However, keep in mind that the front part of your car will move in the opposite direction. Therefore, at least 3 to 4 feet of free space should be left sidewise. A question. You need to drive out of the parking space in reverse gear. There's another car on your right, and on the left the space is empty. The space behind you is limited. Which way is it easier to go, to the right or to the left? It is easier to go to the right, as in that case the front of the car will shift to the left, exactly where a lot of free space exists. Driving to the left should have been difficult because the front end of the car would have gone right where the space is limited by the neighboring car. Next question. Your car is standing at an angle with the curb, and you want to park it parallel to the sidewalk. To do this, you have to move backwards. Which way do you need to turn the steering wheel in order to move the front end of the car to the right and to align the car? To the left. When you turn the steering wheel while reversing, the car's front end will always be shifted in the opposite direction. If we turn the wheel left, the car's front end will move to the right, and it will end up parallel to the curb. As we already know, the car behaves differently when you make a turn moving forward and moving in reverse. When the driver goes round the obstacle in a forward motion, he uses his shoulder as a guide. That is, he turns the steering wheel after his shoulder passes the obstacle. When the driver moves backwards in reverse gear, the reference point is no longer the shoulder, but the back wheel. If it is opposite the obstacle, you can safely turn the steering wheel all the way. The car under no circumstances will hit the obstacle. Let us watch how that happens. The driver has turned the steering wheel to the right. Now the back end of the car does not touch the cone anymore, and the front part keeps moving away from it. If you turn the steering wheel at the right moment, when the wheel is in front of the cone, the car goes successfully around it. But if you turn the steering wheel too early, the back wheel hits the cone. It is interesting to note that the wheel can be very close to the obstacle, but if you turn the steering wheel at the right moment, it will not touch it. It is quite easy to understand when the back wheel is opposite to the obstacle. Just look over the shoulder. Most cars have a small window on the back door, and it usually has a triangular shape. If the cone is on your right, you look over your right shoulder to the triangular window of the back door. When the cone appears in that window, it means the car's wheel is in front of it. Now you can safely turn the steering wheel. If the cone is on the left, then look over your left shoulder. When you see the obstacle in the center of the back window, you can turn the steering wheel. The rear wheel is in front of the obstacle. Your car can be long or short. It may or may not have the trunk, but on all the vehicles, the back wheels are located according to the same principle, and these reference points are working in any case. Thus, the reference point for the right side is the triangular window on the right, and for the left side, the center of the back window. The question arises as to why the left and right reference points are different. The fact is that the driver sits not in the middle of the car, but on one side. Therefore, he looks at the obstacles from different angles and sees the moment when the wheel is near the obstacles in different ways. The position of the driver and the location of the driver's seat do not play a significant role here. Now we examine the exercise called reversing around a corner. Here you need to drive around the corner while moving backwards in a reverse gear, while staying in your lane. In other words, you do not go into the oncoming traffic lane. Let's start with an initial position. You pass through the intersection and stop at a distance measuring about the length of 2 cars from it. It should be approximately 2 feet from the curb on the right side. Before starting the movement, lower the right side mirror slightly downward in order to see better the distance between your car and the curb. The essence of the exercise lies in the fact that the driver must keep a constant distance between the vehicle and the curb. In this case, the car moves along the optimal trajectory and does not end up on the wrong side of the road. It is possible to keep the needed distance by using the side mirror. Since the mirror is directed downward, you will be able to see the knob of the front door. Your task is to keep a constant distance from this knob to the curb. Let us examine this exercise from start to finish. The driver starts to move and continues in a straight line. He looks in the side mirror and turns the steering wheel just enough to avoid changing the distance from the front door to the curbstone. If you do everything right, the car will turn around the corner and still be parallel to the curb. When you see that the steering wheel is already in the straightforward position and the car is moving parallel to the curb, stop. The exercise is complete. In technical terms, it is quite easy to turn around the corner in reverse gear, but this exercise requires a lot of training. Move at a low speed, which allows you to adjust the trajectory of the vehicle if necessary. Do you remember the principle? The steering wheel should be turned in the direction in which you want to go. Thus, if you need to come closer to the curb, turn the steering wheel in its direction. If, on the contrary, you want to drive away from the curb, turn the steering wheel slightly in the opposite direction from the curb. Having to give way to others on the road when traveling in reverse gear adds to the complexity of this exercise. Do not forget to look around and to signal turns. You can prepare for reversing around a corner in advance. When you pass the intersection, look to the right for clearance. As we already know, the front end of the car gets shifted when making a turn in reverse. Thus, your vehicle occupies more space on the road and obstructs traffic. So before you start reversing, you should look around and make sure there is no traffic. In the course of the exercise, you need to constantly monitor the space around your vehicle. Remember that when traveling in reverse, you must give way to everybody on the road, including the pedestrians.